and welcome to Skylight Live, presented by Skylight Theatre. My name is Tyree Marshall, and I'm an artistic associate with Skylight Theatre. As we dive deeper into our 2021 season, we are excited to present Release Not Freed, created and directed by Michael Kearns. Tonight, we will witness 10 unique voices of experience determined to stay on the road to redemption through storytelling. The show has a runtime of 28 minutes, followed by a Q&A with two of the writers, Alicia and Gordon, Celina Alvarez, Executive Director of Housing Works, and Kathy Watt from Van Ness Recovery House, moderated by Michael Kearns. If you have any questions during the Q&A, feel free to write it in the chat below, and we'll try our best to answer as many as we can. We want to thank all of you for your continued support for Skylight Theatre, and we are happy to have partnered with Housing Works this evening. If you haven't already, please donate to Housing Works and Skylight Theatre on our website, skylighttheatre.org. Thank you all again for joining us this evening, and I am honored to present Gordon, Dorothy, Matt, Kim, Sol, Alicia, Juan, Luis, Delila, and Curtis in Release Not Freed by Michael Kearns.
When I was finally released from prison, I felt like I needed to steal some clothes at the Goodwill store. I went in, I asked the manager for help, and she refused me help. I walked outdoors, and a woman came out of the store. She looked at my face, and I know she saw the need in my face, and she asked me, "Honey, are you all right?"
Getting out was a trip. They tossed me out around 11 p.m. I didn't have any money, and I did the only thing that I knew at the time. I went to West LA and I looked for my friends.
When I hit the street, I was totally alone. I had nowhere to go. My mom was gone. My dad was gone. That's when I realized I could never go home again.
I smoked some weed and I drank some shitty vodka, and eventually I grabbed some cardboard and grabbed a rock to use as my pillow. It was as close to home as I knew.
Before I could even make it to my friend's house, not even sure if she lived there anymore, I ran into a stranger and told him I'd just been released from prison. He walked with me and we talked. And before I knew it, we were doing lines off the trunk of some stranger's car in a parking lot. I didn't even make it to her house before I was loaded on drugs again.
I was welcomed back like a Viking. The beer baron had returned and could finally get some sleep. This was a true turning point for me. After I got out, I started using more and more until I was told I was getting a Section 8 voucher by the local homeless service program. Even as a mentally screwed up meth and alcohol addict, I still presented well enough and was just young enough that they thought they could save me.
First time I was convicted, I was 16 years old in 1979 of armed robbery as a youth. I was sentenced to 4 years youth authority and I served 2.5 years. 1984, I received another sentence for second-degree arson to property in which I burned my own property. I received a sentence of 4 years for that and I served 3.5. 1990, I caught an armed robbery, which I just walked up to a man and asked for a CB radio and they give me 7.5 years. I served 3.5 years. 1994, I committed second-degree commercial burglary and I was given 27 to life in prison, in which I served 19.5 years. I was released with no parole, no probation, $200 gate money. Society was very scary to me, including the time when they were filming me coming out of San Quentin. I was homeless. Reality of homelessness hit me, and I was just totally lost and afraid.
In 1991, I was living in Washington State near my mother. I was an active alcoholic and drug addict then, and I became pregnant. I did everything I could to stay clean with the pregnancy, but then one day my stomach just burst. So I lost the baby and I nearly died. Then my dog died. It was horrific. I came back to California and watched cancer take my dad. That's when I was certified homeless again. I was arrested for possession for sales and went straight to prison.
After California revised three strikes law, I was my case was reversed, and I went from 27 to life to 3 years, time served, no parole, no probation, waiting for my release, which came 4:30 in the morning, unexpected. They just came to my door and told me to roll it up. I was given $200 gate money, taken out of R&R, receiving a release. I was put in the prison van, San Quentin prison van, in which they drove me to Stockton, California. They immediately released me with my box, and I was just totally lost. The only thing I knew how to do was just look around me. I was paranoid. I was scared. My immediate response was to look for a phone booth, not knowing that after 20 years that nobody used phone booths.
Reality is complex.
When I was released in 1997, I had nowhere to go. So I became homeless again.
But my mentality is unfathomable. But I don't want a gun. I don't want to trample on this patience that I have brought and made up. But this imagination, it's not confounded. It's just pronunciation.
So I went into the trolley station. I checked some more phones. It didn't work. And so I went and sat on a bus stop bench to try to figure out my next move. I was very lost. I was very scared. This whole world had changed. Society changed. It was totally different to me.
Because I was now in the system with an addiction, I never reported to my parole officer. I was AWOL. Every time I'd be arrested for it, it would be 4 months here, 4 months there, 7 months here.
So I looked for somewhere to put my back against the wall. I was afraid. And I saw a chicken place, a little chicken shack, and I went over there. And I wasn't hungry at all because I was partially excited about being free, but partially too afraid to be excited because I didn't know my next step.
It was just a mess. When I was released from Valley State Prison, they released me on my little sister's warrants. I rode the bus around 9 days to different courts where her warrants were. They kicked me out with no gate money, nowhere to go, and the clothes I had on didn't fit me.
I rummaged through my prison box, and I finally found my friend Jerry Elster's number, and I called, and his wife answered, and I told her where I was at, and they were elated that I was actually out, because it was a fight for me to come home. And she came and picked me up, and I stayed there for 2 days while they tried to find a transitional home or something for me to stay in. To no avail, there was not one for me to stay in. And so I went from motel to motel for about a good week, and then a transitional house finally accepted me with no parole, no probation, because they couldn't get any kickback money from the state. 2 weeks later, they discharged me from their transitional home because they said that they had an influx of inmates coming in that was court ordered, who the courts would pay the $500 a month. They didn't want my $200 a month general relief. And so I found myself on the streets in front of the transitional house with all of my luggage and my boxes and stuff. And I called Harriet, who is my wife now, who was just a friend back then, who was my wife now. And she came and picked me up, and she put me up in a Motel 76 until I could call family members, and family members did their best to send me money from down south in LA up there for me to try to hold on.
In total, I was at California Institute for Women twice, Valley State Prison, Central California Women's Facility twice, and California Rehabilitation Center.
But I'm here to stay, and I have to just lay my blueprint. And each and every day, it's like I was going astray, but I'm living life chaotically, and I have so much in me to just say how all these strategies have just been counted upon, but I need to be surmounted by all this energy. And I don't want to repeat all these repetitive words, but it's like I never had the energy to just think how I was never going to sink in quicksand like all these people and all these Egyptians that had in store within their spiritual guidance.
I was just totally lost.
And I'm in the center of the universe, and I'm just here to be perseverance and all these upcomings, these shortcomings, and all these ladders to escape from. And I don't want to do it step by step. I want to be levitated on, and I want to just fly.
I had nowhere to go but to run.
Being strip searched in Rikers is like being raped legally by the cops. Demeaned and degraded, it all began when I was misgendered and forced to identify as someone I don't know. In an all-male ward surrounded by all-male COs, my dignity and my self-worth was stripped from me as slowly as my clothing. My fear was dripping from my eyes in the form of tears. In an ice-cold room, all I could smell was unwashed uniforms coming off of these power-driven wannabes.
Emotionally, I became dead. I became dead, and I had to survive. I had a cellie, so I could not cry or anything like that. But by the grace of God, when I did get caught up in my second riot at Calipat in 2000, in the summertime, and where they snatched us out of the chow hall again and laid us on the hot cement. It was like already 97 degrees at 10 o'clock in the morning. I ended up going to the hole because I was literally busted with a tray in my hand. And when they put me in the hole, they didn't give me anything. They didn't put no water on me or nothing. So I was in the hole. I was blind by the mace. I was burning all over, and for 3 days straight. And I would have to feel on the ground. I would have to get on the ground and on my knees because I was blind. I don't want to bump nothing in the cell because it's all steel and cement, to get my tray and just eat a little bit of my hand, grab it, the food off the tray with my hand, whether it was beans, or you just eat a little bit just to sustain my body, and then lay down and just hope that the burning will stop and my eyes would open back up.
I can still taste the rubber gloves as he shoved his finger around my gums, feeling like my mouth is being ripped from my jaw. A frozen tear escaped my eyes, and my mind instantly went numb.
Many times, the deputies would pass by and ask me if I was okay. I would tell them I was scared and alone. Feeling scared and alone added to my depression and sorrow.
Being in the hole after, I say, about 6 months, and getting a few books, and then finally getting the Bible, you accept the fact that you're in there, and you accept the fact that if you were back on the main population, you're going to be in more riots, and you could be back in court, either get killed, be killed, or hurt much worse. So I found peace with that, and I began to, only thing I had was my memories and my thoughts of childhood. Certain parts of my childhood, it wasn't bad, and then I had the bad parts, good parts. The bad parts I cried about. The good parts I laughed to myself, and I remember childhood friends. And I have a memory right now of the day that's so vivid that people can't believe. So they go so far back because of all in there. That's all I had. And so I guess subconsciously, I was being trained in myself to remember everything, every detail of things. And so that's how in being in prison was for me, to remember everything, the good things I remember, to take myself spiritually out of the prison, because I had to take myself spiritually out of there. I couldn't leave physically, was good memories and things in society, even though that some of them wasn't so healthy because it was silly things we did, like stealing out of stores, but it brought me humor. And I laughed at myself, and I laughed at all my friends that wasn't actually there, as if they were there with me, and we were all laughing again. It's the only thing I had to hold on to.
The first time in jail was surreal. The second one hit me.
And now the fun begins. I'm mixed race and I don't speak Spanish. I wasn't gonna go with the Mexicans. Plus, let's be real, I'm no gangster. That shit would have gotten me killed. Running with the white boys wasn't really an option either. Last name of Villa. I'm not part of the woodpile. Funny, because of all the scandals they had at county, they still had blocks divided by race. They claim they don't, but when 80-90% of the people in your pod are one race, you kind of see through the bullshit. That's where the Asians came in. Being a minority, if you prove you got some worth, they'll take you in. And hell, I saw it as a way to not get my ass beat and get some smokes. from time to time. They liked me even more when I was a trustee for a little while. I could bring them food, especially fruit. Fruit meant they got booze. Eventually, the reality of what I'd been dealing with got too much, and I ended up trying to kill myself in some stupid bullshit way. And they sent me to the special block and had me in a yellow jumpsuit, make it clear I was mentally ill. I served the last 3 months there, eating sandwiches and reading, getting to go outside for about 20 minutes a day. That was one of the most peaceful times of my life. No one really messed with me.
I was in rehab in 2018 of winter. I had lice because I attracted it in jail. They found out, the people at the program, so they sent me to the hospital with a resident that was barely in the program for 2 weeks. And we had freedom that time. She asked me if I wanted to go to the DPSS office with her instead of the hospital, and I said yes. We went, and I waited for her outside, and a couple of people passed by because the area was Skid Row. They asked me if I wanted to smoke some meth, and I said yes. And the rest is history. Yeah.
I was in LA County Jail for 17 days because my identity got stolen and they were trying to extradite me to New Mexico. So I know what it's like. I've been there. My fellow jailbirds, history has taught us many times that we have been on the wrong side of the fence when it comes to the laws we put in place. In recent years, there has been a weed revolution in many states like California and Colorado. The stigma that prohibited marijuana use has shifted and boomed economies and created millions of jobs. The prohibition of alcohol was smashed decades before, and since then, it has created opportunities and wealth for many.
The resident came out. I told her that I wasn't going to be able to go to the program with her because of how guilty I felt taking meth and afraid that I was going to get interrogated. So she went out without me, and I spent a couple hours outside when I came to the conclusion that I should go back to the program, get my things. And so I headed to the program, and once I got there, they asked me a lot of questions because they saw that I wasn't with the other resident, and they ended up drug testing me, and I ended up failing. And they told me I was gonna have to do 3 more months. So the next day I gathered my things and left. And I had my mind set on other things, and I wasn't ready to change.
My journey begins when I start feeling attraction for the same sex.
Crawling to my first rehab felt like a chore. But again, I was desperate for more. But this time, the desperate for more meant healing all my sores.
Now I call to the people to stand in unity for the legalization of all drugs, even meth. The stigmas behind such hard drugs have some truth to them, but people are still getting their hands on it or even cooking it in our precious land. I remember smoking weed in college before it was legal, and how scared I would be when a patrol car would drive by. Now I see kids enjoying their joints all over California with nothing to fear. There are weed shops all over LA that provide jobs for locals, and the unemployment rate is going down. They say you're only as strong as the person standing next to you. Our country is only as strong as Canada and Mexico.
The monster who gave me pleasure, but that was a really high price to pay. When I was continuing using drugs, I was feeling powerful. At the beginning, that was the glory, but I never realized I was losing my spirit, my soul, and the darkness. When I look in the mirror, I saw I was losing physically, and I was looking like a skeleton. The legalization of meth could create jobs in Mexico for single mothers. And listen, I've never heard of a case in where someone using meth, only meth, has overdosed. Over-the-counter drugs cause many overdoses. My mother is a amazing person. She loved me so much. She always cared about me. Even when I give her bad moments, she always been there for me. Even when I missing days at home, when I give her a fucking bad attitude, when I always yell to my mom, she has so many patience for me because I know she loved me more than her life. When I'm at home, she cooked deliciously. She cooks amazing for me. She expressed all the love in cooking. That's my mom.
Even at the age of 33, I feel innocent when I'm back home in New York in my childhood house where I grew up, lounging in the family room with the golden sunset beaming off the lake, warming my face and spilling through the sliding glass doors.
My father, he loved me very much. He's a hardworking man. He has a strong personality. He always been for me, support me. He never told me he loved me, but I know he loved me from his bottom of his heart. And why? Because I look the same who his dad. I look like my grandfather. Physically, my personality is the same. He never told me when I'm at home he loved me, but just at the way he's looking at me, he loved me so much. Loved me so much, he can give his life for me in any situation.
Lying on my parents' oversized furniture makes me feel petite. As I climb into the plush fabric cushion and sense it hugging my body, and feel the tassel fringe from the corner of the fluffy pillows tickle my face.
My sisters, they're not only my sisters, they're my best friends. They always support me and they love me so much. And also, my sister, I have a nephews. My nephews love me. I love me so much that I love them so much. The love, it's very big as the universe because these friends themselves have loved me. My sister, they give me love, hope, and peace.
Smelling the delicious aromas of my mother's cooking, usually garlic, onion, and basil, filling the house, and hearing my father's strong, masculine laugh billowing down the hall from his office and sneaking faintly into my ears. As I lay there, I feel safe and loved, like everything in the world is okay and is going to stay that way.
I'm just an addict, living with my parents and facing my own problems.
Crack took me to the places I never wanted to endure. Immersed with shame, guilt, self-hatred, spiritually bankrupt, and sadness. Pain reeked all throughout my life. I couldn't even stare people into their eyes. I hated who I'd become. I began to sell my body for whatever, a place to stay, another hit, or just chasing what I thought I was running from. I looked in the mirror and just saw a vacant face. I didn't realize who I was becoming. I didn't have anyone to ask, how do I get help? So again, using all the tools that I thought I had, I just numbed it more and more. I sold my body and became a whore.
I feel free and innocent where I am right now. I feel very blessed. The program that I'm in is very blessed. I have no outstanding warrants or cases. The program is not hard to follow. I get along with almost everyone. I feel that I'm in a better place now as long as I make better decisions.
My grandmother was my best friend and the only person who loved all of me. As a little kid, she used to let me dress up and put on makeup and dance around the house. When the rest of my family told me to man up and be a little boy, she told me I was perfect. Now I have dreams of retiring to the south of France and having a dinner in her honor.
As far as other inmates coming out of prison right now today, many people think that my experience is much different when I share it with them. My experience is not any different from theirs of coming out. They're coming out there, they're broken, they're homeless, they believe the society's already gonna reject them. They have mental health issues as much as I do. They've been through they have many war scars as I do, and it's no different from when I came out as it is right now today when they get out. I see them, I talk to them. I can tell when a person just got out of prison, and I'll greet them and I'll say, welcome home. And they'll look up, they say, with an expression, but I'll verbalize it, like, how did you know? And I say, I've been there, and I smile at them with my hand extended, shake. I've been there too, you know. I've been home just 8 years, and I let them know that you can do it, and I'll refer them. I'll talk to them, and I refer them to different places that I know now to go to that I didn't know at first because nobody was there for me. But it is no different. It is even worse because you have a much younger generation of guys going in there that's not as rational thinking as us old guys that were going in there. A lot of us went in when we were in our 20s to do stretches. These guys are going in when they're 17 and 18 to prison, and they're coming out 5, 10, 15 years later, and they're just as lost as I was and still am.
I know society is not my enemy, not today, brother.
My biggest enemy is me. And that's a hard one, but I'm all right with that.
And here I am now, working part-time, working with individuals who suffer from the same symptoms as me, same incarceration, the same childhood traumas and things like that.
Today, I'm a valuable member of my community, loved and respected. I'm all right. I'm way more than all right.
Wow, I was so moved by that. That was truly inspiring. And I'm very pleased to keep the conversation going and introduce our panelists for this evening. Alicia and Gordon, two of our writers, Celina Alvarez, Executive Director of Housing Works, Kathy Watt with Van Ness Recovery House, and our moderator for this evening, creator and director, Michael Kearns. Thank you all again for being here with us. And just a reminder, if you have any questions for any of our panelists, please put them in the chat below and we'll try our best to answer as many as we can. Michael?
Hey, thank you so much. What an experience, huh? So what do we take away from this, Celina? Let's start with you. What can we possibly learn? What do we go home with?
I had a feeling you were going to call on me, and I am moved to tears. this was remarkable. And I have to say, what we have to learn is that every human being deserves a chance to be loved, a chance to be hugged, a chance to make mistakes and be forgiven, because that's what we do as human beings. We err, and we must be better to one another.
And what, Kathy Watt, what must the prisons do better in terms of what Celina just said? Is anybody being hugged in the prisons, literally or figuratively or metaphorically?
I'm not so sure that people are being hugged and loved in the prisons the way we would like to see it. I think there are some programs in some prisons that are recognizing those inmates that a little investment can go a long way. And so they're willing to invest, and the investments end up with some of those inmates being released to programs that can help them, so they avoid that time walking around on the streets with their gate money trying to not get loaded, and instead being met at the gate by a program that's going to take them in and help them.
Rare though, isn't it? I mean, it seems rarer and rarer that kind of nurturance is happening. Did it go? I think it's gone. Okay. So Kathy, isn't that the incidence of that sort of nurturing or, rehabilitation, the idea of rehabilitation in prison, it seems to me, or the perception seems that it's less and less.
Well, I don't know that there's a less. I mean, there's never been much of anything. So if one prison has one group of staff doing something good and we hear about it, then we get to share with other inmates to ask about it at whatever prison they're in. I mean, when you're incarcerated and you write us about Van Ness House, we write you back and we help give you pointers how to work with the corrections officers so that your release can be seamless to us and you're just not dumped. And
yes.
There's progress. Is it perfect? No.
Okay.
But we have progress that we're making with the courthouses, with some judges. So when we can start to do that locally, that helps because we can keep people from being incarcerated, and instead of being sent to prison, they're being sent from the courthouse to a treatment facility that's right for them.
Which is incredible. And how long have you been doing this? I can't believe it. You, Kathy, have been doing it for how long? And the Van Ness House has been there how long?
I've been doing it 33 years, and Van Ness House is coming up on 50.
Wow. Wow. Gordon, what was your experience in terms of any kind of rehabilitation?
Basically, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, basically, my whole, out of the almost 20 years served, at least 13 of them were, in isolation in the hole, just, because of the stuff that took place on the main line, it landed me back in the hole for surviving. So coming back to the main line, finally sent to San Quentin, there was a little waiting line for different self-help programs and stuff like that, which I got heavily involved in, as well as church got heavily involved with. And, I had that opportunity right there for a lot of self-help programs, but it wasn't so much of how many programs a person could have to their disposal. It's when you come back out here to this real world, a lot of that stuff just don't seem to kick in. because it's a whole different arena stepping out here. You know, you can learn tools from a textbook standpoint, but when it comes to the real reality, it takes some time before the, so to say, the rubber gets to meet the road, because you got to get refamiliated with everything. But like Kathy was saying, if somebody was there to meet us, the minute we get stepping out, which is very few organizations or anything like that there to meet us, you know, when we step out. So it's all the way almost back to like the plan B, back at plan A, where it's failed and you go back to it because that's all you know. You know, I chose not to, of course, commit another crime directly outside of panhandling, because I refused to commit another crime that was going to put me back in there again for another life sentence. So yeah, it's all about what do they have to offer a person stepping out, so they can get the nurturing and be able to solidify those tools that they learned from a textbook standpoint.
I understand. Alicia, what was your experience in terms of just in terms of being in prison or in jail, and how did it affect you? Did you learn anything? Did it affect you in terms of did you come from jail to the most recent time to the Van Ness house?
No, I haven't. I mean, I've spent a total of 3 days in jail. But my imprisonment was, you know, treatment centers, my addiction, everything else that took hold and didn't let me live life to my fullest. And yeah, just coming to the Van Ness house, you know, this is maybe my 15th treatment center, but you know, this place is teaching me how to transform myself and become who I was intended to be.
And how is this place different, or how are you different? What's the different bullet that has lodged, as it were?
Well, the difference with this place is we're kind of like looking exactly at your behavior, starting from probably even before you even use. And by looking honestly at your behaviors and how they've followed you throughout life, and just like owning it and being willing to like open your mind to like the things you wanted to deny about yourself, it really like opens the gate for like willingness to change. Yeah, and this is different in the sense that staff really cares about you. There's a lot of one-on-one focus. A lot of the other treatment places have been, I don't know, up to like 60 people, where you don't really get the help you need. And also with that, there's, you know, like therapists, psychologists, and all that additive into it. And, you know, like every single day, like other people coming in to share their experience through the 12-step meetings. And really, it's just staff care. That's the bottom line, you know?
Yeah, I've said this to you. I mean, you know, your story, only a little bit of which we got from everybody, but it's so impactful and you were so honest about it. Very impressive. And, you know, to see you today thriving is very exciting.
Thank you.
I've got two audience questions.
Great.
So this one is from Lynn Tejada, and it said, how long did each of the writers work with Michael on their stories?
Well, we worked for months. I mean, and you know, the whole notion of how we do this is a mystery, actually. We meet weekly for what, Celina, 7 months or so, and then we come up with this short piece. I work with approximately 40, 50 different writers over that span. And it's about that. That's what it's about. And it's about the bonding that happens when we're working together. And this is the icing on the cake. You know, we go all over the map, and we don't always land where we're supposed to, whatever that means, because they lead the writing. You know, they lead it where we're going to go that day or that month, or I let them decide really what we're going to write about. And I want to hear what they have on their minds and in their hearts. And that can go in so many different directions, but it always finds a theme, you know, and I think that you heard the themes. A lot about family always comes up, a lot about this sort of gratitude. You know, the Van Ness house, there's always a theme of gratitude, a theme of, there's always a redemptive theme. That's why, you know, the ending, you know, I said, you know, I want some uplift, because as tragic as all of this is, and it is, there is a thread of tragedy, obviously, going from beginning to end, but there's also some light at the end of this tunnel, especially when you frame it the way we do. And that's largely because of the work that these people are doing to not go back into jail, to not get into further trouble, to remedy their life, and to look at their lives with such scrutiny, with such self-scrutiny. So we worked for months, is the bottom line. And you know, I've worked with the people at Van Ness House in various writing workshops for a couple of years, some of them. So it's a building, you know, it's a building of trust, it's a building of vulnerability, it's a building of all those things that happen in writing workshops that last for 4 weeks. We've extended that, and that only makes it more intimate and more gratifying for all of us, I think.
Yeah, I mean, the pieces definitely came off very authentic and real, and it really connected truly. I just got a hello from one of the artists. Kim is saying hello in the chat.
Oh, good. Well, Kim came from Mentors, which is good to mention. We had 3 participating organizations: Van Ness House, Housing Works, and Mentors, which is in South Central. And they were an incredible organization covering an area that is not often listened to. They have a beautiful facility, pretty new, and you know, they were struggling with a lot of things, but boy, did we have some great stories. And because there were few women there involved, you know, we could only, you know, pick and choose from the various stories. But Kim's was a great story, I thought, and she was very, very much a part of it, obviously.
And I have another question saying that it seemed like several of the folks shot in this same location. Is that true? Or how did we shoot it? What was the process for that?
We shot the Van Ness House stories in the Van Ness house.
Yeah.
Because it is a house and it is a family. And only would that be appropriate that they were shooting in their family home.
Right, absolutely. And I just got another one. This is booming in the chat now. How do you all, Michael and the writers, get to interact over all these weeks and months? Did you do it through Zoom, one-on-one, in groups? And I guess everyone can speak on that.
Somebody might have to help me, but I get confused because of the other one. We did all of these, didn't we, Kathy?
Oh, I think they're speaking on the process of, so Michael, did you work with them in person, I guess, in regards to COVID and you know, all the challenges that might have come up with that? Like
So these were all in Zoom from the get-go, weren't they? Yeah.
We did it all Zoom. We had our residents together as a group on Wednesdays for an hour and a half, 2 hours, and they would have a topic to write on. And then we had a couple residents that they wrote in longhand, and then we had a couple residents that would type it up, email it to Michael, and we did that weekly.
We had no idea, you know, that seemed undoable at the beginning. We're going to do what? They're going to write it in longhand, then they're going to have Kathy say, how is this going to work? You know, at the beginning, these things seemed unsurmountable when originally we went and they wrote it, they gave it to me, that we got to transcribe, boom. But this seemed, but you know what? It all worked out. People say, well, how can you get involved with them on Zoom? You can't see them. I said, I'll see them. Don't worry, I'll make contact. And it took a little longer maybe, but we managed to get it all accomplished, right? Kim, I made contact with you, didn't I? Gordon, I knew for 100 years, but Gordon and I knew each other in a past life, I think. But we made contact. We did it. So Alicia, I mean, we made contact, right? We got close. It takes a little longer, a little more effort, a little more concentration. But yes, this was all done on Zoom now that I think about it, right?
And I have to say I have to really lift up the California Arts Council grant that made this effort possible, because it was a $40,000 grant that Housing Works received. And I have to say, you know, this is an example of what makes housing work. What we do at Housing Works is we get people off the streets and we house them. But housing is just the first step. There's so much relevant to arts and enrichment and just activities of daily living that folks deserve to have access to. And what we don't see in the sector is funding to support this kind of stuff. This is so important. And I think, Kathy, you would agree with that, because it's more than programming. It's more than housing. It's about human engagement and reflecting on your life and really looking at setting goals and figuring out how am I going to reach those goals. But the California Arts Council grant really allowed for an opportunity for us to support administrative overhead that we needed to take into account to support this virtual way of doing this effort. And I just have to plug in CAC, because without them, we wouldn't have been able to do this.
And another thing that we have with this is that we were able to give voice to all the voices that weren't in today's presentation. Is we're doing a zine through Art Division, which will have the voices on paper, excerpts of some of the things they have said, which will all be put in the zine. That's another approximately 30, I believe, at least, lines that will be chosen with visuals, which will be beautifully rendered, which is coming out next week. And there they will live on in eternity, giving them some empowerment that the people today, the individuals today had on the screen. They will have that empowerment in a book, in a magazine, in a zine. Very hip, very cool, very beautifully done. So we were able to serve them because I felt that they had to also have representation after all the work that they did. So we chose lines that are just incredible. One line, you know, a paragraph maybe, that represented them, represented their feelings about being imprisoned or their feelings about being loved or unloved or whatever. And we're so excited about that aspect. And that's Amy Pelch. She came up with that notion, that idea. She did a lot of the back and forth with Art Division, which is one of our partners at Housing Works. Trying to keep all these names at Skylight and Housing Works is a partner. We all are sort of incestuous, which is great. And so that's a thrill also, that we will have that coming out, which is a representation of the work we did through the grant. So it's just good to get these voices heard. And Celina's right, that CAC puts their intention, their money into these things, because they are a bit amorphous. If you explained this to somebody, some fundraisers, they'd look at you like you were crazy. Like, well, what the hell is he talking about? You know, but we know how urgent this is to get these voices out there, to give them the possibility and the you know, to not be invisible. To not be invisible is part of the problem, is the invisibility. That's what causes some of the behavior, if you will. So it's important, I think.
I've got two more questions. So when will this zine be available for us to?
I don't know these. I want to say in about 2 days.
Oh,
yeah, 2 or 3 days.
That's great.
Yep. I think you can call any one of those organizations. Don't call me, but I think you could call
Housing.
Yeah.
Our number is 323-466-0042. And Amy Pelch is the one handling this. So you can call and Amy should answer. Otherwise, you can be redirected to her.
Yeah, and you can find out. Yeah, it's going to be beautiful.
Awesome. And then I don't know if anybody wants to speak quickly on the healing experience of this, just in general, from participating in this as a whole.
Yeah, I'll briefly speak. Like I was saying, coming out, though I was taught a lot of textbook tools in there, stepping out here to society. Those tools without the nurturing, I was blessed. I'm gonna just say straight out, I was blessed to go through an orientation with Housing Works and get certified as a peer specialist to really be able to like a nurturing catch net to really be able to start having a breather, a break from the everyday survival that I did suffer and go through, to be able to really regroup and apply these tools to better myself and to be able to stay in society through Housing Works. While I was helping work with other people, I was really doing more work on myself, and it was through the same not just curriculum. I don't want to just shallowly say curriculum, but it was through the same nurturing tools like the people at Van Ass House, how Kathy explained. I finally got to get those tools through Housing Works. All right, to really even become much better and gain some type of employment. To really see myself fitting in society instead of seeing myself as an outcast.
Right. Alicia, what about the healing process? Did it help the workshop? Did it do something? I'm not putting words in your mouth.
Yeah, yes, it did. I came in, I think the workshop was maybe within my first month is when it started. So I was raw and vulnerable and, had a lot to get out just of the years of using drugs. So by doing simply just like a writing exercise, it opened up, like this whole other side for myself, like this whole other side that I kind of forgot existed. Just like the creativity, where I could take it, like be very authentic on paper and just see where that goes. And since then, like I've been doing a lot of writing and, doing more with it and, like hoping further to like take that like with me on my journey and just continuing to be as honest as I possibly can, not especially for myself, because that's where it starts. Like being honest with me gives me a chance to continue to do the work I need to do for myself. So it's definitely been healing, and actually I really enjoyed doing it. It was a lot of fun, and despite the tears and just, being embarrassed to cry on camera or whatever, I kind of put it aside and just let it go organically. And I believe I'm still here today as like sitting in the seat with that experience. So thank you.
Thank you, Alicia. What a great way to conclude, right, Tyree?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been such a lovely, powerful panel, and the writers, you all are just exquisite, and I'm so honored to be in this space with all of you. So I just want to thank all the writers and performers this evening, the panelists, Michael Kearns, our moderator, Celina Alvarez, Kathy Watt, and Alicia and Gordon, also the California Arts Council. And furthermore, I want to thank all of you who have joined us this evening. Up next for Skylight Live, we will be presenting portions of a documentary, Road to Return, by documentarian Leslie Neal at 7 p.m. PST. And that will be moderated by Skylight Theater's Tony Abbott Marco, with guests Leslie Neal, Sabra Williams, founder of Creative X, as well as Major Bunton. So if you'd like to join, visit our website, www.skylighttheater.org, and reserve your spot. It's going to be really amazing, just as amazing as tonight was. So I hope you all have a great rest of your evening and you're all safe and healthy during this time. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.